Good afternoon. My name is Mark Mullins. I'm professor of Japanese Studies in the School of Cultures, Languages, and Linguistics. And it's been my honor today, along with Professor Wainwright, to co-host Khenpo for this public lecture. And my role today is to serve as moderator for the short Q&A period that we have time for. And I've asked a colleague in philosophy, Professor John Bishop, if he would join me at the podium here and offer a brief comment and question to get our session started. And as time allows, we will have mics around the room, and we may have time for another 2 or 3 questions in the session. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Khenpo, for the privilege of listening to your teaching. And I think you set before us a clear vision of the treasure that every religion is to humanity, and the importance of guarding that treasure when we are fortunate enough as individuals to have a religion, to stay within that religion and learn its treasures, but also take that further step that you are urging us to take, where we share with one another and we learn from one another. It may be I'm a Christian, maybe I can be a better Christian if I learn from Buddhism. And I'm going to try doing that, because I have here one of your books. This is Footprints on the Journey, Enthralled with Life's Chance Encounters. And I'm going to, so this is written in a diary form, and I'm just going to read from a particular, one particular day, and it's written in both Chinese and translated into English. Oh no, the bothersome backache is here again. And then you say, one becomes most susceptible to the thought of death in illness. And you say, to encourage myself, I am citing here the verse on realization by Hongzhi of the Southern Song dynasty. Dharma bliss is my sustenance, compassion is my dwelling. Compassion is my dwelling. Faith in the Buddha is my final settling place. This body of mine is merely on loan. Being mindful is my sole endeavour. I have no time to spare on earthly affairs. Take Dharma bliss as sustenance. Regard love and compassion as dwelling places. Love and compassion as dwelling places. Take faith in Buddhism as the final destiny. Understand that the body is on loan. Always diligently maintain the right view. Spare no time in chasing the mundane affairs. Keep off fame and wealth. Crave not external attractions. Always see life as a candle flickering in the wind. And you say, can I accomplish all of this? And then you say, it is tough. So, but reading that, especially the reference to dwelling in compassion, I was very much reminded of something from my own tradition that we read in the first epistle of John, chapter 4, verse 16. God is love, and whoever lives in love lives in God, and God in them. So you were talking to us about God meets Buddha, and you made lots of relationships, parallels between Christianity and Buddhism. You didn't actually say very much about God, but I wonder if you don't really have to say very much about God, because God, and perhaps you were suggesting this with what you said about Merton, that God is the love in which we dwell. And insofar as we practice that, maybe God is with us. So I suppose my question is, do you see that way of understanding God that we find in Christianity, that God is love, as a helpful bridge between our two religions.
Actually, you could put it this way, because whether it's Buddhism or Christianity, when it comes down to the end, they all ultimately talk about the highest state of the mind. We call it the highest realm of the soul. In Buddhism, there's a very famous treatise called Pramanavartika. In it, it says that the so-called attainment of Buddhahood is actually the ultimate, most profound compassion. In other words, what we call Buddha is a form of love. As I mentioned earlier, love and compassion mean the same thing. So when compassion reaches its peak, that is what we call Buddha. In this sense, we believe that whether it's Buddha or God, it actually means that love has reached its ultimate state. But this kind of ultimate state is hardly something that can be described or speculated on through ordinary conceptual thinking.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I have a question that I would like to discuss. This particular question was actually asked of me by a Christian priest. I've been studying Buddhism all along. This Christian priest asked me, Buddhism talks about the 6 realms of reincarnation. At which specific level should the God of Christianity be placed? At the time when I was explaining this, I felt that my answer was perhaps too personal. So now I'd like to ask for your advice.
If it were you, how would you answer this question?
Actually, this kind of perspective in Christianity should be measured and explained using Christian terminology. As for Buddhism, whether it's about saints or ordinary people, they use Buddhist perspectives to explain things. Otherwise, some rules in New Zealand may not necessarily apply in the United States, so every world has its own different circumstances and ways of operating. Therefore, when explaining things, it makes sense to use the doctrines of each tradition to explain within its own context. That is indeed very reasonable.
Khenpo, thank you. You discussed the similarities, commonalities between different religions. I had a question about the religious versus the secular. And while I can't imagine someone saying, I'm a Christian, but I'm not religious, I can imagine someone saying, I'm a Buddhist, but I'm not religious. So my question is, can you be a Buddhist and not be religious?
So I wonder, is there a case where someone in New Zealand is a person and someone in Australia is also actually a person? But is it possible that the person in New Zealand is not a person, yet he is still a person, right? Can you answer that for me? If you can, I can also give you an answer. Is it that I didn't understand? Is that what he means?
What he means is that he is either a Christian or a Buddhist. Can he say, I'm not a follower of any religion?
But both Christianity and Buddhism are religions. That might be hard to say, right? They are both people, right?
Yes, that's right. Hello, so what I'm saying is, religion has actually existed for 4,000, or at least 2,500 years. It has a very long history. 2,500 or 4,000 years? Science had not yet developed then. Modern science began about 400 years ago. Although it is only about 400 years old, science has developed very rapidly. This has led many people to believe in science and no longer believe in religion. So I started to wonder, whether it's Christianity, Catholicism, or Buddhism, do we perhaps have any new ways of thinking? To take traditional religious theories, including love, including all religious beliefs, such, and combine them with the latest developments in modern science. So we can see between science and religion, there is no conflict but harmony. What work has the religious community done in this area so far, or what achievements have been made? Thank you.
Although science has been around for 300 or 400 years now and has made remarkable and tremendous progress, science refers to the exploration of the physical and material world. It is a development on the material level, whereas religion is a kind of spiritual pursuit of the mind. And this kind of spirituality, in fact, whether it's 2,500 years or 4,000 years of human history, as long as there is civilization, even if science becomes ever more advanced, in reality, our inner selves can still reach the state described by religion. It should always be possible. So, in the process of scientific development, it is possible to rely on some scientific methods to promote and communicate these ideas. But in fact, the highest state of the mind cannot be realized through science, no matter how advanced it becomes. Therefore, the content of religion does not need to be reformed or updated. Only its methods can keep pace with the times. As everyone knows, human science is so advanced, but the morality in our hearts still relies on the teachings found in religion. The fundamental values taught in religion, including those taught in Buddhism, such as not stealing, not killing, not engaging in sexual misconduct, and not lying, these are spiritual precepts that have existed for over 2,000 years, yet people still need them today. So no matter how advanced science becomes, it may still not be able to reach the highest level of the mind.
Respected Khenpo, hello. I have two questions for you. The first is, whenever we turn on the TV news or the internet, we see that at every moment, all over the world, natural disasters or man-made accidents are happening. At such times, it truly feels like human life is indeed so small and fragile. I would like to ask, how should we view this phenomenon? The second question is, many various religions around the world believe that people have past and future lives. Buddhism teaches rebirth in 6 realms. May I ask, do past and future lives exist?
Regarding the first question, human life is indeed so fragile. Whether we are traveling by car or by plane, at any moment we could suddenly depart from this world. One minute we are here, and the very next minute, unexpectedly, we may leave this world. Therefore, in Buddhism, there is often a practice called contemplating the impermanence of death. When you are alive, you should try your best to do the things that need to be done. At every moment, you should keep the final moment in mind. In this way, when the end truly comes, and when sudden, unexpected death finally strikes, you will be somewhat prepared. So regarding this particular aspect, it is reasonable to have some systematic study. Secondly, I believe that people do indeed have past and future lives. This is a rather lengthy topic to discuss. In the past, at Nanjing University and Northwest University, as well as in some other courses, I have also cited a lot of scientific and Buddhist evidence to explain this. At the same time, I have also translated a very well-known and respected book in Tibetan Buddhism called On Past and Present Lives. This book also draws on classical references and presents some irrefutable evidence. So I think if you really have such doubts, you might need to spend some time studying this. Then you can truly understand that past and future lives do exist.
I would like to ask Khenpo to help us imagine what would happen if God really met the Buddha.
I think if God truly met the Buddha, there would be no conflict of interest between them. There would be no jealousy or anger. It would be entirely about love, deep compassion and wisdom. So I think it would far surpass the interactions between ordinary Easterners and Westerners. It should be something truly wonderful. Of course, there are different viewpoints on this. I think when I was at Sun Yat-sen University before, I talked a little more in detail in general regarding Christianity. In fact, Jesus from Christianity was in the Himalayas. He also had experiences of studying there and was influenced by Buddhist thought. This is something I've mentioned before, citing other sources as well. Overall, I would say, when the ideas of Buddhism and Christianity are integrated into one, in fact, it means the Buddha meets God and God meets the Buddha. At that time, much of the crying and wailing in the world would also be reduced. Therefore, we sincerely hope that all brothers and sisters and all living beings as well, everyone would have a deep sense of harmony, a heartfelt cohesion, and a sense of unity. With this, the world would feel very warm.
But for a guilty person who is indeed truly without faith, which one will be born of demon? So, in moments like these, who should we truly place our trust in?
We start from the fundamental doctrines and ideas of Christianity, as well as those of Buddhism. You can also see it. They actually have the remarkable ability to completely and genuinely forgive any and all sinners, no matter what they have done in the past, including those people who have harmed you. In fact, they treat others with genuine understanding and wisdom and deep, compassionate love. This is evident from Jesus' own sacrifice, that is, when he ultimately manifested indeed his passing away on the cross, as well as from related stories about the Buddha in the biography of the Master, was also for the benefit of certain sentient beings, sacrificing their own most precious life. So looking at these stories, it is a symbol of pure, selfless, and truly unconditional love that knows no bounds. Such truly selfless love, in fact, is able to attract countless sentient beings from all walks of life. Therefore, we feel that in this world, only this kind of truly selfless and unconditional love can bring even more happiness and joy into our lives in the world. It is actually the most attractive thing of all. What is most frightening for us is selfish possession, or purposefully, and in a calculated and intentional manner, taking possession of other people's rights and their wealth. Therefore, in this world, all forms of love, in reality, I believe that many are actually, in essence, a kind of love for one's own benefit. But the ultimate love, in essence, advocated by all religions, which is transcendent, has no conditions whatsoever. It is truly and entirely a dedication to serving others and helping those in need. This kind of love, whether in Buddhism or Christianity, or even among ordinary followers, when it actually appears in them, even if only briefly, is bound to be attractive to others.
It's my job to bring this to a conclusion. I'm afraid we would be here for some hours yet, as I see the hands still moving, but we need to bring this to a close. I'd like to thank Khenpo for this lecture and for kindly responding to so many questions. To all of you for coming, and some of our volunteers, the Puxian Temple group and others, it's been great to see such a turnout, and I only wish my Japanese extended to Chinese so that I could participate more fully today. Anyway, it was great to have all of you here. Please join me in thanking again Khenpo for his lecture.